ranked number 10 in my entire country, 200 out of 200 in math. I studied for those exams by a kerosene lamp because we did not always have electricity. And I was good. Everybody said so. And at 48 years old, standing here in America, the country I came to completely alone, I thought I finally had money mostly figured out. I knew what an IRA was. I even rolled my old pension into it. But nobody had ever explained to me what a trust was, or the first thing about how a trust is different from a will. Let that sit for a second. A woman who scored a perfect 200 in math, a woman who had already saved for her own retirement and still lucked out of the room where real wealth actually gets protected and passed down. And here is what took me 50 years to finally understand. That was not a gap in my education. That was the design. Because financial literacy is not something the world accidentally forgets to teach the brilliant kids. It is something that gets passed down quietly in certain families, a certain dinner tables. And if you're not born at one of those tables, the silence around money was never an accident. The silence was the design. If you are watching this, I already know something about you. You did everything right. You worked, you showed up. Maybe you got the degree. Maybe you are the smart one in your family, the one everybody calls. And somehow the money part still feels like a room you were never given the key to. I need you to hear me say this. That is not because you are not smart enough. I have the test scores to prove that smart was never the problem. When I came to this country, there was nobody at the airport, no cousin with a couch. There was no family meeting about generational wealth because there was no generational wealth. And there was no family here to even have the meeting. There was survival. There was me. That was the whole list. So nobody explained the money rules to me. And I'm starting to believe that nobody ever really explained them to you either. So consider this video the meeting that nobody ever bothered to call for us. And let me say one thing plainly before I go any further. I am not a financial advisor. This is my story and what I learned the hard way. For your own money, please go and find a real professional. But you do not have to be a professional to finally tell the truth about how we all got here. So let us talk about how this actually works. Because it is not a conspiracy in a dark room somewhere. It is quieter than that and it is cleaner than that. Financial knowledge in this country is not taught. It is inherited. Think about it. The kids who grow up understanding money did not take a class. There is no class. They heard it at the dinner table. A father talking about the market, an uncle explaining why he bought the house instead of renting it. A grandmother who said the word investing like it was the most normal thing in the world, like it simply belonged to them. It was just in the water of that house. Now, what was in the water in our houses? Money does not grow on trees. We cannot afford that. Do not tell people your business. Survival language, fear language. Every single sentence I ever inherited about money was really a sentence about lack. And here's the part I want to be very careful with. Nobody was lying to me. My mother was telling me the exact truth that she knew. The problem was never the people who raised us. The problem is that a whole system was built assuming the dinner table will do the teaching. And then it never once checked to see whose dinner table had nothing to say. And for the women watching, I have to take this one step further because for a lot of us, financial literacy was not just something we were never taught. It was something we were actively kept from. In my own house growing up, my mother stretched every single dollar, but she did not control one of them. My father did. The money always came with his permission attached to it. And the very first time I earned my own paycheck and I refused to hand it over, I became the black sheep of my family for the crime of wanting to control my own money. So hear this. Some of us are not behind because we were slow. We are behind because we were never once allowed anywhere near the will. And you cannot become fluent in a language that you were never permitted to speak. But that is only the setup, because there are three specific things that they never told us. And the second one cost me $20,000. Thing one, compound interest is not a math concept. It is a time machine. And they let the clock run for years without ever once telling us to get on. $20 a week, if I had truly understood, really understood what $20 a week starting in my 20s turns into by the time I am the age that I am now, I would have found that $20. Even in the hard years, especially in the hard years. But nobody told me that small mattered. They let me believe you had to already be rich just to start. And that is the exact lie that keeps you poor. Thing two, good debt for most of us is mostly a story that somebody is selling. I learned this one with my whole chest. I co-signed, I loaned, I said yes, when every wise part of me was whispering no, because I thought that is just what a good woman does. It cost me $20,000 and 10 years of my credit. If you want that whole story, I have an entire video on it, so watch it after this one. Nobody ever told me that being generous and being financially literate are two completely different skills, and that the world will very happily let a generous woman bleed out. Thing three, and this is the big one. The wealthy do not use money the way that we were taught to. We were taught earn it, then spend it, work harder, even more, spend more, the treadmill. They were taught own things that pay you while you sleep. Money is not something you spend. It is something that you put to work. I was 50 years old the very first time anyone put that to me plainly. 50. A woman who scored 200 out of 200 in math, by the way. And once I finally understood these three things, I understood the part that actually made me angry. Because that gap between what they know and what we know, somebody is profiting from it. Here is the thing I really need you to sit with. A woman who does not understand money is not a failure of the system. She is a customer. The payday loan needs her. The 29% credit card needs her. The rent-to-own furniture, Rent-A-Center needs her. The check cashing place, the fee on top of the fee, on top of the fee, on top of the fee. An entire industry is built on people who were never once taught to ask the right questions. Financial anxiety is also profitable. Financial shame is profitable. That quiet feeling that money is a room that you are not allowed into, somebody is making money off of that feeling, off of you and off of me. That is exactly why I say it was the design. Not because somebody hates you. It is colder than hate. It is just a business model that works best when you stay a little bit confused. And for women like us, immigrant women, Black women who came here with no map at all, the confusion runs the very deepest, because we did not just start behind. We started behind and alone, with everyone telling us we should be grateful just to be in the room. Grateful while they collect the fee. So if nobody ever called that meeting for you either, the one about your money and your future, then let this channel be it. I show up every single day, a 50-year-old woman figuring it out in real time, out loud, so that you never have to do it in the dark the way that I did. So subscribe if you are starting over at 50 years old and you are done being confused on purpose. That is the whole club. That is exactly who I am here for. Because I am not going to leave you with just the diagnosis. I am going to hand you the door. So how do you break a 50-year-old cycle? Not all at once. That is just another lie. The one that says it is already too late, so why even bother trying? Here is what I actually did. And I'm going to be honest about the order because the order matters. First, I stopped being ashamed of what I did not know. That was the whole lock on the door. As long as I was embarrassed, I could not ask a single question. Shame kept me a customer. Curiosity is what finally made me an owner. The second thing, I learned 3 words at a time. Not a course, not a guru, 3 words. Living trust, what is it? Okay, next week. What is the difference between a trust and a will? Okay, because it turns out the language was the wall the entire time. They dressed it all up in fancy vocabulary so it sounds like a room that you're not allowed to enter. It is not. It is just words. And a woman who scored 200 in math, she can learn some words. And let me give you one thing to actually do this week, because I refuse to leave you with only a feeling. Pull up one number that you have been avoiding. Your credit report, which is free, by the way, your real balance, the interest rate on one card, and just look at it. Look at it without shame, without flinching. You are not looking to judge yourself. You are looking to finally see the board you have been playing on blind this whole time. And the third thing, I let the interest work for me for once instead of against me. Even late, even small, because here is what compound interest does that nobody ever tells the 50-year-old woman. It does not check your age at the door. It does not care how old you were when you started. It just needs you to start. Now, I'm not going to sit here and promise you a fortune. I came to this country with nothing, and I am honestly still building, but I am not confused anymore. And that confusion was the tax that I had been quietly paying my entire life without ever once seeing the bill. That confusion is the hustle tax. It is the price that you pay for surviving inside a system that was never built to explain itself to you. And you can stop paying it at any age, starting today. So before you go, hold on to 3 things. 1, compound interest is a clock. Start it, even small, even now. Number 2, generous and financially literate are 2 different skills. Learn the second one so the first one does not bleed you dry. Number 3, the wealthy own things that pay them. And you are allowed to own things too. Nobody is coming to hand you permission. And the one underneath all 3, you were never confused because you were slow. You were confused because it paid somebody to keep you exactly that way. That stops in this house. I keep thinking about that girl, number 10, in her whole country, studying by a kerosene lamp because the lights were never guaranteed. 200 out of 200 in math. She was never going to be handed the one map that actually mattered, the money map. Nobody in that country and nobody in this one was ever going to sit her down and explain the rules to her. So at 50 years old, she drew it herself by hand in the dark, the same way she had done everything else in her life. And now she is handing it to you so that you do not have to wait until you're 50 years old, so that you do not have to draw it all alone. You do not need permission to start over. You do not need permission to understand your own money. You just needed somebody to finally tell you the truth. Consider it told. So tell me in the comments, what is the one money rule you were never taught that you are only now finally learning? Name it out loud. Let us take the shame off of it together right here. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Webley, and I make videos for women starting the whole thing over on their own terms at an age that the world told them was too late. And with that, I will see you tomorrow.